Cori Bush was recently interviewed by Mr. Maliek-sama, and she was asked a very simple question. What did she think about Kyrsten Sinema's backing from corporate donors and special interests and her not supporting legislation due to that fact? Take a look at Cori Bush's response, and I'll tell you why it was bad.
So, Congresswoman, you mentioned the price tag. You mentioned some of the opposition from corporate-backed Democrats. We know Senators Manchin and Sinema are saying they object to the price tag of the Biden agenda. They say that it's about inflation. But on the one hand, you have, for example, Senator Sinema today, according to the Times, meeting in private with major business lobbying groups who are reportedly writing her checks for between $1,000 and $5,800 payable to Sinema for Arizona. And there's also reporting today that Ro Khanna, your colleague in the Progressive Caucus, slammed Sinema, said the House has a one-senator problem, not a two-senator problem. It's Sinema, he implied, and got applause for it. What do you make of Senator Sinema and her seemingly being beholden to corporate donors?
I want her to remember. I think sometimes we forget. We can forget our own struggles. We can forget where we came from. And I just want to say that every bit of struggle that she's ever faced in her life, that everything that she's ever seen or heard from a constituent, everything that she ran on to be able to end up in the seat that she's in, to not forget that, because let us not think that there is no way that we could ever be in that position again. And if it's not for you, care enough about people who are not in your your comfortable situation right now. That's what we have to look at. It is sickening to me that there are people who will just push aside those that need these deep housing investments. What we're talking about is saving lives right now. We need that prescription drug reform, and to say, oh, you know what? You can continue to have to worry about whether you're going to pay your rent or get the life-saving medications that you need, because you know what? My donors are the ones who have me here. It's sickening, but I'm speaking to her humanity, and I hope she hears me. I hope she hears me. Every single person in your district deserves your focus and your representation. They deserve for you to pay attention to them and put them first. Public servant you are, so serve the public. Humanity first.
Wow, Cori. Come on, Cori, come on. You can't do that. I mean, completely fumbled the bag right there. Notice how in that long soliloquy of a response that she gave, not once, not one time, never did you hear the word, say it with me, corrupt. Not once did you hear her say that word. Never did she just call it for what it was. She's corrupt. This is corrupt. She's corrupt. She's beholden to these corporate donors and special interests, and she's letting them make the decision. She's not a legislator. No, the legislators are Amazon, Walmart, the CEOs of these financial institutions, the big banks. Those are the legislators. These politicians, Kyrsten Sinema, they're just figureheads. They just answer to those entities that fuel their political campaigns, and that are going to offer them a job when their legislating days are over. You ever heard of the term revolving door? You ever heard of that? You know how you remember when the financial crisis happened, and none of those con men were ever prosecuted. None of them went to jail. The big CEOs, I'm talking about those people, the people at the top of the financial institutions, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, all the rest. What the fuck happened to them? Well, they got bonuses, which they gave to themselves. They got trillions of dollars in bailout money, which was given to them by the government, by the Congress. And then a couple of them got spots in administrations. Barack Obama, his administration was filled with people from Goldman Sachs. The president before him, George W. Bush, his administration was filled with those people. Bill Clinton, the same thing. they get spots in the administration. It's this revolving door. But let me not pivot. I'm going off on a tangent here. Let's get back to Cori Bush. Cori says, I want her to remember. I want her to recall. I don't want her to forget her own struggles. Why are you coddling this person that obviously knows what she's doing? It's this idea, and this is the problem that I have with the corporate Democrats. They're way too soft on their opposition. You know, they think that the Republicans are the ones that they have to fight against, and somehow these corporate corrupted Democrats are allies that they just have disagreements with. No, none of them are your allies. All of them are your enemies, Cori. Every single one of them. Kyrsten Sinema doesn't want to remember back to when she didn't have anything. And we'll get to that in just a second. She's incapable of thinking about that. Her way of thinking is completely distorted. She's taking so much money from these financial institutions, Wall Street, Big Pharma, all the rest. And so she's incapable of thinking the way that you would like her to. Everything that she ran on, Cori, those were lies. She's a liar. Another word that you should have said. Kyrsten Sinema in the past positioned herself to be for lower drug prices. Not anymore. I wonder why. She in the past positioned herself to be for higher wages, a higher minimum wage. She voted against the $15 minimum wage. I wonder why. Guys, there's answers to all of these questions. These people are liars and they're frauds. And it would have done Cori Bush a great justice to state that fact. It genuinely would have. She says that I want to speak to her humanity. Let me put something into perspective for you. Do you genuinely, I'm asking this question honestly and genuinely, think in your heart of hearts that a person that takes money from Big Pharma and these health insurance companies and then comes out against legislation that will lower drug prices for Americans, and an effect of that, with drug prices not being lowered, certain people can't afford their medicine. They don't take their medicine. What happens? They get even sicker. They may die. That happens in this country. You think a person like that has a semblance of humanity? No. That's the very definition of being inhuman, of lacking morals, of lacking ethics. Do you see how I'm talking right now? I'm shaming Kyrsten Sinema. You want to know why? Because she needs to be shamed. All these people, all of them, they need to be shamed because it's shameful. You can't speak to them as if they're some child who, they just lost their way. No, they're actively choosing to go in the direction that they're going. And you have to make that obvious to the American people. I mean, it's very obvious to see. Everybody sees it. We know that she's corrupt. Kyrsten Sinema has taken over $600,000 from Big Pharma in the health industry, over $6 million in donations from the finance industry, insurance industry, and real estate industry. Goldman Sachs has contributed over $30,000 to her campaign. She went on this winery paid internship. Who the overseer of it was this incredibly wealthy CEO who I believe contributed like over $6,000 to her political campaigns. It's an endless slew of corrupt bullshit she's running on. And Cori Bush gets a blatant opportunity to call all of that out, and she just doesn't do it. She just doesn't do it. And this is something that all the Justice Democrats have in common. They're incredibly soft, and they just don't unload the clip, figuratively speaking, of course, on their opposition. And I believe it has to do with them not seeing these corporate Democrats as opposition, really. They don't want the same things that you want. Just say it. Just call her corrupt. Say that she's a bad actor. Say it. She doesn't have humanity. Okay? You can't do the type of thing she does and call yourself a human being. No, that's the definition of being inhuman. Man, oh man, this type of stuff really gets to me. It really does. I like Cori Bush. I think she has great intentions. I genuinely do. Her efforts, although some may criticize it and say that it was just grandstanding and virtue signaling, I do think that it's commendable what she did by sleeping on the steps of the Capitol to get the eviction moratorium extended, although that is no longer our reality and we're facing an eviction crisis and all the rest. But that's an entirely different subject for an entirely different conversation and video. But at the very least, in this interview where she was asked a very direct question, and I don't know if it was a refusal, I don't know if she just got nervous or whatever, but she didn't take it in the right direction and she didn't call out something that was staring her right in the face. In my honest opinion, it's just yet another example of the Justice Democrats, this time Cori Bush, not doing the things that we would like to see them do. And I almost actually forgot about this. So she says that she wants Kyrsten Sinema to recall the days when she didn't have what she has now. Okay, well, this is from The Intercept. Sinema's dramatic rightward shift toward the barons of finance and pharmaceuticals at the cost of progressive tax reform stands in sharp contrast to her childhood origin story, in which she talks about having grown up in an abandoned gas station without electricity or running water, at one point living out of a car. That's what Kyrsten Sinema said about herself. In response to a colleague's expression of support after an NPR story detailing her family's struggles with financial hardship, Sinema, then a representative, speaking to colleagues in the Democratic cloakroom just off the House floor, deadpanned, "Yeah, voters love that stupid shit. They eat it up." You think that person has humanity, Cori? You think that person can remember where they came from? No, she can't. She's incapable.